And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Valentine's Day, February 14th. It's 1:06 in the afternoon. Temperatures outside a little balmier. Yeah, you could call it that than they have been. We started out the morning 20 to 30 degrees above where we were the same time yesterday. So, you could tell this to people that live in the South. Hey, it was only 0 this morning. It felt balmy, and they probably look at you like something was wrong with you. But that's the way it was this morning, and temperatures should warm up today into the balmy teens across the central and southern valley, a little colder in the far northern valley. I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki alongside with our Ag Director, Bridgette Readel. And Bridgette, happy Valentine's Day today.
Happy Valentine's Day to all. Unfortunately, we talked about how things got a little more expensive. Even cocoa did. So right now, because of some of the crop failures that they've had on the Ivory Coast and so forth, where some of our chocolate cacao beans come from, we're going to spend a little bit more money this year on candy. That's been the case even since Halloween. So maybe you want to go look for something different instead of just spending extra money on chocolate. Perhaps this year eggs are the way to
go. Instead of an engagement ring. Give her a couple dozen eggs.
Give her eggs. I'm sure we dropped an egg at our house yesterday. I'm not sure we're going to financially recover from this situation right now.
Oh man, the truth hurts. That is true though. But yeah, everything. What about roses? I haven't really paid much attention. I'm guessing there's no shortage in roses to spike up those prices.
Probably not, but wasn't that one of the reasons why Colombia agreed to everything that President Trump wanted to do, because they are a supplier of fresh cut flowers, and they wanted to make darn sure that this market was not skipped as they approach Valentine's Day to Mother's Day.
Good point. Yep, no doubt.
Yeah. Interesting point I read this morning. On a gram for gram basis right now, eggs are more expensive than beef.
Wow. Man.
Gram per gram. And that's usually not how I measure it, but
right.
You could.
Right. And, even with the expensive prices of eggs, it's still a relatively cheap protein.
Yes.
Even so. But hopefully we're just not getting conditioned like, oh, okay, well, $6 a dozen, we'll just knock it down to 4.5 and keep it there. You know what I mean?
How would it be any different, though, than what happened with fuel? I mean, we've seen that with crude oil, with gas prices. That's how we set new floors in marketplaces. We've seen it with vehicles. Our food is probably one of the last places we haven't done that.
Right. Exactly. So we've got one thing I wish we could change is getting some warmer weather in here. And unfortunately, man, today is going to be the warmest day that we see. Can you believe it? Over the next week, as we've got a brief break in our cold weather pattern. It's still cold and it's still below normal, but it's just not the biting Arctic cold today. There's a few light snow showers on radar, but a lot of this not reaching the ground. The atmosphere above us is too dry, so it evaporates before reaching the ground. But I do think we'll still have a few snow showers or flurries as we head through the afternoon hours and into the evening. Don't look for much in the way of accumulation, though. Should have a high today in the mid-teens. That's a lot warmer than it has been, with northeast winds about 10 to 20. Blustery tonight with lows near 0. Winds turn to the north at about 15 to 25, and a blustery Saturday. North winds 15 to 30. And highs only in the single digits. We'll see a few snow showers Saturday night into Sunday morning. Again, not a big deal. And then blustery on Sunday, but at least we'll see some sunshine. Highs 0 to 5 below. And then we're back in the deep freeze to start next week. Could see the coldest air of the season. I know some spots already saw 20 to 33 below. I think we'll rival that early next week. But the good news is, by the end of next week, and we've been saying this for the last week or so, we're about ready to go into phase 2 of the LRC cycle. And what that is a northwest flow. So that's the same pattern that gave us numerous clippers a few months ago, about a month and a half ago. And that same pattern is coming back. Now, what that does is return our temperatures to a near normal to even slightly above normal pattern. But we'll see periodic clippers come through with these light snow events from time to time. And this will last through mid-March. So we'll keep this phase 2 of the LRC cycle through mid-March. And then we enter the stormy part of the LRC cycle mid-March through that first week of April. So about a 3-week stretch. Now, I've had a lot of questions, a few emails on, hey, the stormy part of the LRC cycle this time was down to our south, and part of that is due to the Arctic oscillation. Now, assuming we've got two things working in our advantage here in the northern plains, as we head into mid-March and early April, that jet usually starts to lift north as we head towards spring. So there's one bonus for us. That should shift that storm track a little further north. Odds are we're not going to have an Arctic oscillation as strong as it was these last, let's say, 30 days. And with that being said, that increases our chance that the stormy weather that has been down in the central plains will finally lift into the northern plains, again, mid-March through early April. So a little better news for our ag community because we could still use some moisture, whether that's rain or snow. We could, and preferably snow. We definitely don't need a heavy rain like we had in November with this frozen ground. That's not going to help much at all. So we'll be keeping an eye on that for mid-March and onward.
We'd like to have that all absorbed. That'd be the best place for it. Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. As always, a huge thank you to Ryan Bonesack with Equitable Agri-Finance, providing long-term fixed rates for farmland financing. He wants to work with your ranch or your farm, and he would be happy to do so if you give him a call at 701-261-6529. Thank you, Ryan, for being a part of our day at Weather and Ag in Focus. Much appreciate that. And for those who are listening and or watching, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube, WDAY's Weather and Ag in Focus. And you'll also find us on Acres TV, which if you haven't downloaded it yet, please do. It's a free app, and it's the Netflix of agriculture. And so you'll find lots of ag-related content on there, whether it's following equipment, farmers in the field, and so much more. You'll have an opportunity to keep up with what's happening in farming every day. So just a few things to make sure everybody's aware of. And also, yesterday we had the opportunity to visit with North Dakota FFA while we were at Giving Hearts Day, which, again, thank you. Huge day. They blew their goal out of the water. My understanding is over $31 million was donated yesterday to various charities in the region.
That's fantastic. That's up, what, a couple million from last year?
Their goal was 29. They went to 31. And that's 619 organizations benefited from all of the work being done yesterday and the enthusiasm that was gained. Yesterday on our show, we had North Dakota 4-H Foundation, Farm Rescue, and North Dakota FFA, just three of the excellent ag-related charities that are out there. You know, another one would have been North Dakota Stockmen's Association's Foundation. And the FFA had a great day yesterday, but recently they also were the beneficiaries of funds that came in through the Governor's Ball Foundation. It's the Governor's Heritage Fund. So at the Governor's Ball, the inaugural ball in January, folks were invited to bring cash donations, make donations online, or bring perishable food items. Perishable food items went to the Great Plains Food Bank. Cash donations were shared amongst the food bank and North Dakota FFA Foundation. They were the beneficiaries of $200,000 that will be used for programming for students, sending students to national competition, college scholarships, program starting scholarships. So by that, I mean if there are high schools that want to start programs, we now have some funding to do that. We also have students who might want to buy their first tractor, their first cow or sheep, or whatever the case might be, and start building their enterprise production operations as well. And that's where those dollars will go, even right down to the pencils for contests and the blue jackets they wear to them. So I'm looking forward to spending tomorrow, my Saturday morning, will be in Kindred. I'm judging one of the ag sales contests for the Kindred FFA Invitational. So bring your best attitudes, folks. I can't wait to see the things they're going to try to sell me on. Usually it's pretty wild, the ideas and opportunities they have.
How many people are out there for that, Bridgette?
There'll be several, I think there'll be a couple hundred kids that are out there because they're going to do the ag sales contest, but I think they also have their invitational for livestock judging and other events going on at the same time. So I get an opportunity to be there strictly for the ag sales contest. In past contests that I've judged, students have tried to sell me a saddle. I have been sold a tractor. Sometimes it's as simple as their own, they raise their own wheat, they bake their own bread, all of those types of things. So I'm always curious to see what students are going to be selling me and whether or not they convince me to buy. That's the better part.
Right.
Seeing what they think if I'll buy it. Yeah.
That sounds like fun.
And
That
so
sounds like a good time.
it it'll be a good time tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
And we have that good time with students continuing on Monday. We will have our next assistant ag director joining us. That'll be Emma Gullix. And Emma is a student at North Dakota State University. She's originally from the Hope Page High School area. And so Emma's going to join us on air with our guests and so much more. So we're looking forward to having Emma as part of our day on Monday. Today, we do also have a guest, and that's Tommy Grisafi. Tommy, I have known for a while. He is a farm commodities trader, if you will. So, what's a farm commodities trader? You know what? We're going to want to ask Tommy exactly what that is. He's with Nesvick Trading from Nashville, Tennessee. Oh, and also North Dakota. He does business up here. A lot of you know Tommy. He is a dynamic personality, and many of you will recognize his name from RFD TV. He has been part of the Cow Guy Clothes show and so much more. He'll explain all of those things when he joins us. So let's check in with the American Ag Network on our markets. And when we return, we'll have Tommy come on and talk about commodity training. Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, and thanks for being here today. It's chilly out there. Hopefully, you're getting some work done in the shop, in the house, or at the office. But any of those ways, you get a chance to tune in and hear what we've got going on. And one of those things is our guest, and that is Tommy Grisafi. And Tommy, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I don't want to say I missed my time, but when I got the text from you, are you ready? I'm like, am I late? What's going on here? But
No.
happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. And I'm in Nashville. I did have a chance to do real life TV. Now I'll tell you, this is 10 times more fun because when you go to studio and someone's going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it gets a little nerve wracking. But I hosted Market Day today. And do you know my friend Tony St. James? Have you guys ever
I
interacted with Tony St. James?
I do know Tony. Yes.
Yeah, so I think he was getting a little sick or wanted to go home because if you take off today, then you get Monday off too. But anyway, I got the call from them saying, "Do you want to do the first 2 hours?" And it's just too neat. I don't live in Nashville full time, but I have a little place down here, just like I used to in Fargo. I had a little apartment in downtown Fargo. Ex- Nashville's exactly like Fargo, just a lot more music. And I tell you what,
And warmer.
nobody's. Well, I wanted to tell you that it's cold here. I have a full-blown winter coat. It's cold everywhere in
Mhm.
America. I was asking the weather gentleman because right before I do markets on RFD TV, I said, "Where is it warm in America?" He said, "A little tiny part of Arizona and southern Florida. Other
Hmm.
than that, everything else is on ice, so it's pretty cold." But happy Valentine's Day to all of you. I see Bridgette's wearing red because she's a sweetheart, and my daughter's on her way down. My little daughter goes to University of Kentucky, so she's driving down. She's gonna go to Cody Johnson concert. And Bridgette, you'll be proud of me. I was smart enough to announce live on TV, "Happy Valentine's Day" to my sweetheart Gina, and she was listening on XM radio, so I got big perks there because I didn't buy anything, but seeing it on TV, so
Well,
she
I
was
didn't mean to
laughing.
scare you with your reminder about the show, but I probably should have sent you a reminder yesterday that today was Valentine's Day, so you could have got that knocked
No, no,
out.
I knew. I thought I didn't know if we're going at 1:32. I'm like, I better look. And then I looked at my phone and I missed a text from a half hour ago. But I was ready. We're always ready. So thank you for
You
having me
are.
on.
You are.
What's going on? What do you want to talk about?
Well, first things first, most of the folks who are up in this region know you from having been with Advanced Trading, but that's changed. And you talked about Nashville just now and not having your spot in Fargo and so forth anymore. So fill us in. What's been going on in the changing game of Tommy Grisafi?
Yeah, in life and work and stuff, there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I came down to Nashville to do RFD TV a year ago, and I went to a book signing, and I met a guy. He's actually sitting right over here. He's in the office today. His name's Jared Dillion. And Jared wrote a book about financial markets, and he's a friend of Nesvick Trading. So a friend of mine from Chicago said, "Go to this book signing." I met these people called Nesvick Trading. Never heard of them, but there's a very large group of traders who were from originally Memphis, who moved to Nashville. So a big group of men and women got together and said, for lifestyle purposes, who wants to work in Nashville a week or two a month? And so they have this office in downtown Nashville. I don't know if either of you been in downtown Nashville, but I could literally walk out my office door and be at Tootsie's bar in 3 minutes. And so I know you probably like music and stuff. I'm a block away from the Ryman Theater. Yeah, Morgan Wallen's bar, whatever you want to go to, I can go to it. Bridgestone Arena, where Cody Johnson is tonight. So it's just different. It's a different lifestyle. And so they offered me an opportunity of a lifetime to come down work here. And so I and not to brag, but I have the trifecta. I literally can work in Nashville at this office. I can go over to RFD TV and do live national TV and radio. And I have a place to stay now where I don't have to get a hotel. So it was just a lifestyle change. And the other thing, Bridgette, which I think you'll appreciate, I do now have my office in Mayville. Ag Bull Media never moved out of Mayville, North Dakota. But I didn't, when I did markets like this, I didn't own the content, right? And
Mhm.
as you know, whether it be the Caller Daddy show or whatever, when you guys do media, it's really important to own your own content. So Advanced Trading owned the content. You know how excited I was to do that live stream. And when you
Yeah.
don't own your own content, you don't own yourself. And I just feel that 52, life's too short to be putting out stuff out there. And I felt like so many people were getting all the credit for all the media I was doing, yet I didn't own it. And so now what Nesvick Trading did was they said, "We want you to own 100% of your media. You can own your book or brokerage, and we support anything you do." And it's just nice to have a teammate like that. So really proud to work with this group.
That's great. And Tommy, I don't know if you're familiar with the LRC. It's a new way to forecast long term, which is it's got a 70+% accuracy rate 8 months in advance. How important is weather, not only here, but in South America, around the globe? How important is that when it comes to markets?
Well, that's a great question. One of the appealing reasons for being here at Nesvig, and I'll brag for him. I don't even know if I'm supposed to, but we have an in-house weather guy. His name's Craig Solberg, and I don't know if either of you are old enough to remember the old group. It was called Freeze Notice. They
Oh,
put out
that goes way back.
way back. So
Yeah.
Craig worked or was a partner at Freeze Notice. I don't want to misspeak, but Craig only does weather for Nesvick Trading, and he
Ah,
definitely does the. Let's just say this: there's a trader here who wakes up at 3:30 every morning and directly talks to Craig, and I'll leave it at that. And this gentleman really likes to trade soybeans and corn. So, how important is weather here at Nesvick Trading? Really important. Really, really important because this group of people, this is an old school group of fundamental traders. There was an old group. I don't think Bridgette would know of them. I barely knew of them, but someone out there listening will remember there was a group called Sparks, and there was a gentleman named Willard Sparks. And so a lot of the people from Nesvig are spin off people who had a relationship with Willard Sparks. I'll tell you a cute story. One of the big traders, some of the traders in the room, and Bridgette was kind of asking what's the difference between what you do or did at Advance and what you do here. I still work with farmers, but Nesvik Trading is very, very much a group that focuses on trading. They have commodity brokers like Tom Grisafi. They have a great commodity broker out west. His name's Tom Leffler, I believe, and he's in cattle, but they really
hmm
focus on trading. I asked this one gentleman, we were out one night. I said, how the heck did you get in commodity business and get so good? He said, my dad used to sell at Willard Sparks a new jet every 2 years. I go, so you're now a famous commodity trader because your dad sold Willard Sparks jets? He goes, yep. He said, I graduated from college. I Great story, Bridgette. You know, it's like one of those old school board of trade
hmm
stories. He graduated from college, and the dad said to Willard, my son just got a finance degree. What should he do? He goes, I'll fly him to Chicago tomorrow. He starts at the Board of Trade in 2 days. And he never looked back. And so that's old school relationships. Memphis, Willard Sparks selling him a jet. Now, one of the guys who works with me is a very successful commodity trader. We call those CTAs, Commodity Trading Advisory.
That's awesome. Anytime I ask Tommy a question, I love the story and the background that comes with it because there are so many good things to hear and to learn. Okay, so I do have a lot of things though, and one of them is when it comes to what's going on in the commodities right now. So we're going to talk just a little bit of serious business here for a moment. Think about we always rely on what's happening in Brazil. They beat us as the number one exporter right now in the U.S. in both corn and soybeans. What does that weather look like? What's that going to do for us, Tommy? How does that influence our market?
Oh, yeah, great question. Tremendous. Whether Argentina helped prop our markets, of course, the funds have been buying it. Big news in wheat. First, I'll answer your South American question. South America planted the crops a few weeks late, so it looks like harvest is delayed or slowed, but harvest is going to come on in a big, big way. It's probably why you didn't see soybeans close on the highs today. But South American harvest is going to happen. It happens every year. We'll see lines of trucks and ports, and then people with Bloomberg terminals or fancy software, they can literally watch the boats line up. You could see what boats are coming from overseas. You could see them spinning out in the ocean. You could see them getting filled up and then leaving, and you can literally watch this flow of grain out of South America. So they do produce more uh, beans than we do now in the United States, and they still have a lot more room to expand. As you know, anyone who's ever driven south of Fargo over there by just south, we took some beautiful Red River dirt and made it into $1 million houses. I don't know where
Yeah,
everyone gets the money in South Fargo to own those homes, but there's some
right.
money in that beautiful black dirt down there. And it's not my house, that's for sure.
That is a great start to the rest of our conversation with Tommy today. And we're going to check in with our bottom of the hour news. When we return, a WASI report came out recently. Let's talk about what that is and why it matters because I know no one better to explain it than Tommy. I may have started as an ag econ graduate and I got out of there fast because I'm not nearly as good as Tommy as talking the market. We'll do that when we return. Welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus, and we get to talk all about the markets today. I'm not a market expert. I don't even pretend to be, even if I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night, and that's why I get guys like Tommy Grisafi to come chat with us. Tommy, there was a WASD report that came out, and there are some folks who are just going to ask flat out, I don't know what that means because I'm not involved in commodity trading. I'm not even doing it on my own farm with that forward marketing. What's the impact? Can you talk a little bit about WASD and what it affects for you on a daily basis?
Sure. So a WASI report is something that's released from the government, just like we have an unemployment report that comes out on the first Friday of every month on the financial side, how many people are working. This is today we had housing sales, how many homes have been sold. We try to figure out how much grain is in America, how much are we producing, how much have we produced, and they look at world demand and then they adjust their numbers. There's other agencies across the world that do this. So we watch the agencies in South America. A lot of people get mad at the USDA. Like if we have a WASDE report and it's negative reaction, people get mad at the USDA. But we've had some really bullish WASDE reports over the years. I know I can tell you some great stories, but we don't have that much time. So data gets put together, and we're allowed to collect our own data. We're allowed to collect our own data, but we trust the government to do it for us. And they say this is how much is left. And farmers always tell the truth. They don't lie. They don't lie on their taxes. They don't lie on nothing. They don't fib to the government or anything else. So when a farmer wants to know why the data is so hard to put together from the WASI, it's because the farmer's actually given them a lot of that data. Now, there is some things changing with satellite technology. I'm sure you've had some of those experts on your shows with drones, satellites, images, everything else, AI. You think we'd be able to do a better job of knowing what's actually out there in the field? I once asked Chip Flory, I had a little podcast with Chip Flory. I said, why are the yields so inconsistent? You know what his answer was? The husk. The husk is over the corn, and you can't actually tell how big the kernels are, kernel depth, kernel weight, all that other stuff. So he said, yes, we have all this technology, but the husk is actually keeping all the little secrets in there. So that's what comes out, and then we trade it.
Mm-hmm. We
Interesting.
do.
Trade
And
that
the
information.
husk is, I like the husk as Mother Nature's way of keeping a secret, but that's just one thing.
Yeah.
And Tommy, with the new administration putting tariffs on many, many things, how is this going to affect not only the markets, but just prices in general for the public?
Well, this administration ran on the premise that they were going to get food inflation down. As you all know, coffee hit new all-time highs today. Eggs hit all-time highs. Breakfast became a little more expensive. Insurance is really high. There's certain things you can get down. There's certain things you can't. The tariff talk scares the market. Probably what this administration could do, which you all would know better than anyone, our very own Doug Burgum, if we drill, baby, drill, and get crude oil down to 55, when energies go down, that will help bring corn down, because what does 1/3 of all corn go to? Ethanol.
Mm-hmm.
So watch your crude oil, watch your heating oil, watch natural gas. If from an administration point, if we can get energies down, we can start to cool food inflation, and of course that'd be less money for our farmers, right? So if the price of the raw commodity goes down, you're going to have a bunch of unhappy farmers in the Red River Valley.
Your point about ethanol, there's such a debate right now about whether we should worry about ethanol or not. But frankly, I want to say it's a percentage, and I think you know this number better than I. Somewhere around 70% of U.S. corn goes to ethanol production. Is that correct?
I think it's a third. I want to say we produce
A third.
15
Okay.
billion bushels of corn, and 1/3 of all the corn goes to ethanol, and
Okay.
that's still an incredible amount. Because if you said I'm a farmer and I produce food, I would say you're a farmer and you produce fuel. When it comes to corn,
Yes.
it's not going into cornflakes. It's going into ethanol, obviously soda, and anything that has the word or sweetener in it, and so many products corn's in.
Thank you. I had that ratio backwards. So there we go. That's where you had the
It's the other
30%, but
way.
I was
Yeah.
looking at it in the other way. So as a commodity trader right now, when you think about what you see on a corn price, a soybean price, consumers are worried about what their food's going to cost. Farmers want to make more money doing it. What has to change fundamentally for either one of those things to happen? Or as Dean said earlier, are we establishing new floors in pricing on our food supplies that aren't going to go back down?
Oh, that's interesting. We definitely, the floor has risen, but I do think we'll go to lower levels again, and this is why uh, we have technology out there that's just going to help us continue to produce big crops around the world. But we do go in boom bust cycles. We do have funds who want to own these commodities. Throw out name drop another commodity. Gold hit new all record highs. It's down $40 an ounce today. Um, the job of someone who produces commodities is to produce the most commodities as efficiently as they can, as affordably as they can, and get that price down. So commodity markets tend to have booms and busts. We're in a not a boom right now in grains. We're not completely dropping. So we're going up gently. Commodity markets have booms and busts. We're doing a little better, but there's a hidden undertone here in the commodity markets. Clients I know have massively burnt through cash. We have relatively high interest rates, not 80s high, but in the 80s you weren't borrowing $3 million to operate. You're borrowing 100 grand. And so elevated interest rates, elevated insurance prices. I know anyone out there who owns a home or auto will understand. Imagine all the stuff farmers have to insure, their homes, their autos, their equipment, their machines, their bins, everything. And healthcare has exploded. Now that I'm self-employed, trust me, I can tell you from someone who pays their own health insurance, one of the disadvantages of working for yourself. But it's expensive. It's expensive to live right now. And so, yes, corn's come up, but the cost of production also has risen. And I don't really care what the price of corn is versus what the cost of production is. So say for example, it's a year from now and corn's 550. If it's costing the American farmer $6 to grow corn, who cares that it's $1 higher than last year? So we also have to talk in what is that cost of production and due to elevated interest rates, high insurance, overall high labor, the cost of production's increased tremendously for American farmers. And to be honest with you, in some ways, they're at a disadvantage when it comes to other world farmers, how they obtain labor so much more affordably.
We've been talking corn and soybeans because they're the two major components of the ag industry in the US. But do we have any concern, or you as a trader, do you care about what's going on in cotton or dairy or beef? Are those commodities that you watch and trade on as well?
I trade a lot of cattle for clients, and cattle just closed on the lows. Is kind of exciting day. We talked about cotton today on Market Day Report, just that on an acreage battle, cotton's really at a low price and it looks like corn acres. So look at it as a commodities trader, we look at all the acres in America and say what could go in there. I cannot think of a more diverse state other than California than North Dakota, because when we can plant so many different things, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we kind of have like seven in North Dakota. I mean, how, the type of dirt and the weather that they get in eastern North Dakota is nothing like western North Dakota. That's like another planet. So, so much diversity in the state of North Dakota with our edibles, um, sugar beets, our hard red spring wheat. So much great stuff we can grow up there. Canola. We have a climate in ground that very similar to the Ukraine. And that's why when the Ukraine was invaded in 22, the great state of North Dakota had such a boom because we had sunflowers and seed oils like canola and everything else. So yeah, we watch that, and that's what's great about working up in North Dakota with North Dakota farmers is it's not just corn and beans. They actually have choices, and sometimes they don't like their choices, but those are the choices they have.
Well, speaking at meetings myself earlier this week, some of those choices included discussions on things like dry edible beans, flax, durum, crops that we can raise, but we don't always hear about. So there's a lot of diversity being discussed going into the 2025 growing season. And I think you're seeing that too, Tommy.
Yeah, remember about 5 years ago when my North Dakota clients were starting to raise hemp? You don't hear them bragging about how
Yes.
much they sold their hemp for. That was, I don't even think they could smoke the stuff because the THC level was so low. But nonetheless, you get all excited on these new things. Stick with what works on your farm. And if you're good at growing wheat, grow wheat. Obviously, it's very expensive to get in the sugar beet business, kind of a club. And but boy, we have great genetics that can really push these products, as you know, from all the things you do and the people you associate with. Push these genetics to what they can do up in the Dakotas.
So, Tommy, you are a man who takes the stage at some very large events, Commodity Classic. I've seen you speak. I know you have also been a part of things at Farm Progress, Top Producer, and other conferences. What are one or two points that you want people to be aware of as we go into 2025 that may be on your speaking bullet points this year?
Oh, great point. I want people to know that in general, a lot of farmers are feeling the pressures of life, and you're not in this alone, right? I think everyone thinks, like I think I'm the only guy who has 2 kids in college and is burning through money and just, quit my job and started my own company. But there's a lot of people. Farmers are independent people, and they take a ton of risk. In the end, it's interesting. Like I think it, everyone thought last year was so bad, but then you find out you're getting a government payment. You really gotta not look at the day-to-day grind and look at the big picture. And when prices get bad, don't wait for prices to get bad to do something about it. So be proactive. We're having a big rally. Wheat was up 20 cents today. Corn was up 6. Beans were up 15. If you got to sell high prices, and if they go higher, there's tools we have against that. But use the tools we have positive attitude. You have a podcast about mental health, I believe now, and it's so important to let people know they're not in this alone.
That is huge. We are not doing this alone, and we are enjoying what we still do. I mean, for the most part, right? I know there are some folks that are getting ready to say, I'm kind of done. I'm ready to get out. But farmers, when they get the chance to open the shop door, bring the equipment out, and get ready to hit the field, it's a pretty fine feeling every spring.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you need help, there's I don't want to talk about my own health records here, but there's medicines, there's drugs, there's this, there's that. There's all types of yummies out there that could help you. Just like if your tractor's not running right, make sure it's balanced. And I think sometimes you think that's something I guess I would accuse my wife of going through and saying, you know what, you're always hot. You're having hot flashes, whatever. But your body is a very unique thing. And I would say most farmers take 10 times better care of their combines than they do of their bodies in both a physical and mental aspect.
You're not wrong. I've seen some lunch boxes. So, Tommy, where can people find you with Nesvick Trading? And your Ag Bull Media is where we can find you on social media, but just recap all that for us, please.
Yeah. So if you go to www.agbull.com, I put a QR code up there a few months ago just so people can get a hold of me. www.agbull. All my social medias are agbull. There's a QR code, which you're the one who actually showed me how to get that. I think that's from that dot card, right? So go to that QR
Yep,
code, take a little picture of that, and all my new information's on there. Thanks for asking, Bridge.
absolutely. Glad to have you here, and it's so much fun to visit with Tommy every single time, whether
Oh,
it's in
look at there.
person
There it
or a
is.
day
Look
like
at you.
today.
Who's fast on the trigger finger over there?
That's
There you
our
go.
wonderful
Oh,
producer,
yeah.
Addison.
Yeah. And hats off.
He's doing
Uh,
good work.
Yeah. To ask how important weather is to what we do, so important. So important to
and,
what we do here at Nesvick Trading.
and it's so good to have an accurate forecast, which is not easy to come by sometimes nowadays.
No, absolutely.
Well,
Absolutely.
thanks, folks, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Tommy, for being a part of the afternoon. We got to come back and recap the weather. Got a few headlines to get through, but most importantly, we just want to kick off a great Valentine's Day afternoon. So stay tuned.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag and Focus on, it's about 1:53 in the afternoon, and temperatures outside from 94 southward between 10 and 15 above, single digits in the Northern Valley, and we'll warm things up between about 10 to 15 here in the FM area. There is some snow on radar, but much of it not reaching the ground because the conditions aloft are too dry, so that snow falls into that dry air and evaporates before reaching the ground. But I still think we'll see some snow showers as we head into the afternoon and evening. But don't look for much, if any, accumulation here in the FM area, maybe a couple tenths of an inch, if that. A little more possible as you head into Lakes Country and southeast of the FM area. If you're having any travel plans, let's say going down to the Twin Cities, might run into a little bit of light snow, but Arctic air is the big thing that's going to follow this slight warm-up that we've got today. So don't get used to it. We're back in the deep freeze for the rest of the weekend.
All right, we'll be fine.
Right.
I mean, it's cold, but don't stand around out there, at least not for a long time.
Good point.
That's the right thing to do. Yeah, stay warm. So one thing that could warm you up, when we were kids, Grandma just said it was a meat and cheese tray, but with the fancy Ritz crackers. Well, now everybody's had these charcuterie boards, and we have a special board to make the charcuterie boards, which all it's doing is driving American dairy consumption in a great way. So for those of you who maybe feel that lactose intolerance not working for you, the rest of us are carrying forward on your behalf. The average American enjoys 661 pounds of dairy products per year. That's most of it not even in fluid milk. It's the highest level of consumption in more than 60 years, and it's 7 pounds more than the year prior. Most of it's cheese. That's the real rock star right now. We are consuming an average of 40.5 pounds of cheese per person, up 7 pounds from 10 years ago. Now, we're not just stopping at cheddar. Although the cheddars rank high at the top, it's things like Asiago, Feta, Gouda, Havarti, and so many more. We're into those specialty cheeses now. Again, back to the charcuterie board, which I can say but cannot spell. And I'm never going to worry about spelling it because I will just call it a meat and cheese tray, and everybody knows what I mean.
It begins with a CH, and that's about as far as I can go.
Yeah. But then after that, butter. And suddenly butter made this big presence happen in the last couple of years. There's butter boards, literally taking softened butter, mixing it with other herbs, and spreading it on a board flat so you can scrape some off to put it on your bread. I could have skipped the board part and gone right to the bread, to be perfectly honest. But nonetheless, butter's making a comeback. Much of that is focused on what we saw during the pandemic as y'all learned how to bake your own bread at home. Sourdough literally exploded all over kitchens, and sometimes it got pretty messy. But because of that, butter consumption is also at its highest per capita since 1965. 6.5 pounds per person. I'm going to be honest. Based on the case of butter in my freezer, I think the consumption at my house is higher than average. Just a guess.
That does seem a little bit low.
It does. It does. But we're spreading it out over all Americans. Yogurt, meanwhile, is at 13 pounds per person, and cottage cheese at just over 2. Hopefully a lot of you are liking the cottage cheese out there.
Right.
So nonetheless, dairy farmers really are looking to be breeding for better, higher fat and proteins in the milk. That's part of the genetic package that they're looking for. But our dairy consumption not going down. We're doing good. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for supporting American dairy out there. And we've talked a little bit about the weather today. Certainly, barge traffic has been a concern because the Mississippi River has been so low. Well, if you have not yet realized why barge traffic is important, first of all, we don't get as much moving from here in North Dakota down the Mississippi River as other states do. We would mostly go out by rail. But one of the things that changes for us is that when barge traffic backs up, it takes out trucking. And here's why. If you were to use all the cargo that was going down the river on trucks, it'd be 43 million trucks to haul that same amount of cargo. Now, fuel-wise, it's much more efficient to go by water because a gallon of fuel will move 675 miles on water, only 472 by rail, and just 151 by truck. All that barge traffic, it's moving quite a lot of foodstuffs. In fact, all the wheat that can be held on a single barge, over 58,000 bushels, would bake a loaf of bread for every person in Oklahoma. So there you go. That's
Some
why your bread
interesting
can go with your
stats,
butter.
right?
Yeah, you're all consuming so much. So today was all about the statistics. You're going to play trivia this weekend and win compliments of Weather and Ag in Focus.
There you go. Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us. For Bridgette, myself, have yourself a great and happy Valentine's Day. Enjoy today's quote-unquote warmer weather because Arctic air returns for the weekend and into early next week. Have yourself a great weekend. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next.